This man was planning a wedding on one hand, and on the other hand, he was planning how his side chick was going to do an abortion for the second time. However, the side chick was not ready to do an abortion for the second time. So the man planned, and the side chick disappeared for 4 days. And on the 4th day, when the side chick was found, she was in a terrible state. The name of this man was Ntuthuko Shoba from South Africa. He was working as a Johannesburg Stock Exchange analyst, and he was doing very well in life. He had a fiancée whom they were going to marry in few months to come. However, on the side also, he had different side chicks, and one of the side chick was known as Tshegofatso Pule. So Pule, the side chick, was a 28-year-old woman, and she was a makeup artist. She was living with her aunt because both her parents had actually died when Pule was at the age of 14 years old. Pule was an outgoing lady, and she really liked to dance. And one day, while she was having fun with her friends, she met with Shoba, and Shoba approached Pule and told Pule that he really liked her, and Pule had no issue. Then Shoba came clean and told Pule that he had a fiancé and he wanted their relationship to be a secret. So Pule had no issue with the relationship being a secret, and from that day on, they got into a secret affair. So during the initial or the early stages of the secret affair between Pule and Shoba, they will spend most of the times together. Shoba will miss work and go and pick Pule from her place where she lived with the aunt, and they will go and have a good time together. Shoba will treat Pule just like a queen is supposed to be treated. And in the evening, they will book a room, have a good time below the bed sheets. Then Shoba will drop Pule back home, and he traveled to see his fiancé, and they will plan on how they were going to pay dowry, then later on do a grand wedding. Then one day, Pule the side chick missed her periods, and she tested. Then she found out she was pregnant, and she was so happy she was going to be a mom. However, when she told the father Shoba, the father was not ready to be a father. So they agreed and they did an abortion. So after the abortion, Shoba and Pule continued seeing each other, and they will spend most of the time together. And as usual, after spending the time together during the day, in the evening Shoba will book a room, and the two of them will have a good time below the bed sheets. Then Shoba will drop Pule back at her aunt's place. Then he will travel and go and see his fiancé and plan for the dowry ceremony and a grand wedding later. However, during the planning, the mother of Shoba's fiancé died, and Shoba stopped going out with Pule for some time because he was mourning with his fiancé. And during this time, when Shoba and Pule were not seeing each other, once again, Pule missed her periods, and she did a test. Then she realized she was actually 3 months pregnant. So after 3 months, Pule called Shoba and broke the news and told Shoba, once again, you are going to be a father. Shoba was still mourning the passing of his fiancé's mother, and he was not ready for such a news from the side chick. So Shoba went straight ahead and told Pule, we are going to abort the pregnancy for the second time. But this time Pule was not ready to abort the pregnancy. Pule told Shoba, I've already chosen the name for the baby, and it's already past 3 months. It's very dangerous. If I abort now, I might die. I'm going to keep this baby. Shoba then hung up the phone, and a few weeks later, the fiancé's mother was buried, and the fiancé was left with a very huge inheritance of about 8 million rands. Shoba, noticing that the fiancé had an inheritance in millions, he started panicking because if the fiancé knew that Shoba had made another woman pregnant, she might leave him. As time went on, Pule's pregnancy got bigger and bigger, so Pule's aunt and the relatives wanted to know who the father of the child in the womb was. And Pule revealed that it was a man named Shoba. The aunt and the relatives called Shoba and they wanted to meet Shoba's parents. Shoba told the relatives and the aunt of Pule that it was okay. Then they planned on a date. However, on this date, Shoba and his parents did not show up. Then they postponed to the following Sunday. The same thing happened. Shoba and the parents did not show up. And this continued for 4 Sundays. The relatives then got Shoba's parents' phone number and they called Shoba's mother. And they narrated the story to Shoba's mother. However, Shoba's mother told the aunt and the relatives of Pule that she was only going to meet them under one condition: if they had a DNA. That was the only condition. But without the DNA, then the mother of Shoba was not going to meet Pule's aunt and the relatives. The aunt and Pule's relatives were so shocked with the response of Shoba's mom because there was no way they were going to get a DNA before the child was born. So they aborted the mission of meeting Shoba's parents. When Shoba saw how things were progressing, he feared that the next person the relatives and Pule's aunt were going to call might be his fiancé. So he came up with a plan on how he was going to end things once and for all. Shoba went and met a man known as Muzikayise or Muzi. Muzi was a criminal and he told Muzi everything, and he told Muzi that he wanted to get rid of Pule and he needed a person who could do the work. Muzikayise had no problem and he volunteered himself and told Shoba that he was going to do the job with a pay of 100,000 rands. However, Shoba negotiated with him and they agreed that he was going to be paid 70,000 rands after the work was done. Then Shoba told Muzi that he was going to plan everything, and Shoba came up with an idea of a fake job. Shoba went and bought a SIM card and he pretended to be a woman. Shoba texted Pule and told Pule that there was a vacancy and a makeup artist was needed urgently. And Pule said she was willing to work as a makeup artist since she was struggling. There was no job during the coronavirus time in 2020. The day when Pule was supposed to do an interview came, but she refused to go after she was told that she was going to be picked by another car and taken to a different location. This plan failed, but Shoba did not give up. He came up with another plan. He tricked Pule to come to his house, and when Pule came, they were going to stay until late. And on 4th June 2020, Shoba called Pule to his house. Pule went and they stayed until late in the night. Then Shoba told Pule that he was going to call an Uber for her to take her home safely. And Shoba texted his criminal friend Muzi or Muzikayise to come and pick Pule. Muzikayise texted back and told Shoba, "I'll be there shortly, just get out of the house and wait for me." The two, Shoba and Pule, got out, but Muzikayise took some time. Then the two, Shoba and Pule, got back into the house. And shortly after, Shoba told Pule that the taxi is here. Then they got out the second time and they saw a grey jeep coming from the darkness and stopped near them. Pule went to the taxi driver and she noticed that the driver was actually drunk, and Shoba and Muzi convinced Pule just to go, everything will be okay. And shortly after, Pule got into the car, then they drove away. Then, few hours later, Muzikayise called Shoba and told him that everything is done as planned. Shoba then thanked Muzikayise and he told him that he was planning to send him his balance. On the other end, Pule's aunt tried calling Pule, but Pule's phone was off, so she decided to report that Pule was missing to the police station. Immediately, investigation began and the police went to Shoba's place because Shoba was the last known person to have seen Pule. Shoba then showed the police a CCTV footage where Pule is seen getting into a grey jeep and driving away. Then Shoba got back into the house. The police, armed with this CCTV footage, they looked for the person who was driving the grey jeep and they were able to track down the man who was Muzi or Muzikayise. Muzikayise was arrested and taken to the police custody. And after 4 days of Pule being missing, a person came across the body of Pule that was hanged on a tree with a gunshot wound on the chest. Pule's aunt was called and identified the body of Pule. Muzikayise, while in court, he decided to confess everything that happened. He told the court that he was the one who killed Pule, but under the instruction of Shoba. After Muzikayise confessed, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Then Shoba was arrested and taken to court. Shoba was also found guilty of planning to end the life of Pule and Pule's child, and Shoba was sentenced to life imprisonment. What kind of man was Shoba really? Please, in the comment section, write RIP Pule. If you like to see more stories like this, click the link on your screen now and you'll see more stories that we have narrated in the past. Click the link on the screen. Kindly don't go without subscribing. Click the subscribe button, like this video, and in the comment section, write RIP Pule. Until next time.